It's 5 o'clock, and I'm calling the regular board meeting of the Ross Valley Sanitary District of March 22nd to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, thank you. Borstein?
Yes.
Gaffney?
Here.
Meggs? Director Meggs?
Ma'am?
Okay, I'll mark her absent for now. Scylla?
Here.
Kelly?
Here. Pam, you might want to log out and log back in. I'm now going to lead. Oh,
Michael's barking.
okay, with that, I'm going to lead the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda, or do we want to move anything around? Steve, do we have any reason to move anything around? No? Okay. Can I have a motion?
I move approval.
Thank you,
Now's not a
Tom.
good time to be creeping in back of me.
Mary, do you want to second that so we can?
I did. Sorry, second.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Do we have a roll call for that, Julia? Do we need that?
Yes. Borstein?
Yep, still here.
Do you vote to approve the agenda?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Gaffney?
Yes.
Director Meggs?
You're on mute.
Yes.
Pam? Good. There we
Thank
go.
you. Scylla?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes. Thank you very
Unanimous,
much.
thank you.
I see there is no open public here. This would normally be open time for public expression. Seeing none of the public, I will move on to item number 4, the committee report out. Number A is Finance Committee. Tom, do you want to do that?
Sure.
Okay.
We had a fairly short meeting with Doug and I yesterday, and we reviewed the financials. The operating revenues are slightly above budget, and the operating expenses are somewhat below budget. So we're in fine financial condition. And I also noted that according to the projection, we're generating about $9.6 million a year, which we can use for our pay-as-you-go. It's a sustainable amount, annual amount for our pay-as-you-go capital program. And then we also reviewed a couple of board agenda items relating to some change orders, additional payments for pump station engineering design that our engineers are going to do instead of leaving it up to the contractors. That's agenda item 8 on our budget. And then we also look for a change order for the construction management for the Butterfield Arroyo Kendrick Road, which project has gone on much longer than anticipated. If you have anything to add, Doug?
I would just say it was interesting that both Tom and I had one question on the check register, and why are we renting a lift jack? And the answer is that we ordered one some time ago, but it's on back order due to the global supply chain problem. But we're expecting to get at sometime soon. But it was interesting that both Tom and I pointed that out. And so no, it was good. Thank you very much. Central Marin Sand, do you want to do that, Michael, or shall I? It's up to you. Well, you're on mute. You're still on
I'd
mute.
like to point out that there was a Human Resources Committee, but so I would suggest we not talk about it here because it's not on the agenda, but that we pull 7E and 10C. And when we get to 10C, discuss it there. And so PMSA, mostly business as usual. We had a presentation from the consultant about the tertiary recycled water truck fill station with some preliminary costs. And so there was nothing to do on that other than just watch the presentation. And maybe that's something that will happen in the future. Um, the Jenbacher, the new Jenbacher engine is still busy coming online. It's being tested at this time. And we signed a long-term services agreement to take care of it way off into the future. We finished all the roof repair on the old admin building over there. And we talked about the CMSA 2022 pension obligation bond, which we discussed at the last meeting here. And so that's moving forward. And the good news there is that CMSA just got their rating improved from to a AA rating now. So that's very lovely and will help with that. And the Wasatch engine, which has been out of commission, should be back in commission in the next few days. All the parts are there and they're working on it like crazy. We have not been burning biogas to create energy for a while now, but the second okay, Doug,
All right.
having a moment.
All right. Well, let me go ahead.
Cover of the other one that's been down is now up, and as soon as it's creating biogas, and as soon as one of our engines is up and running, we will be once again creating energy.
Correct. I want to call a couple of things I want to just highlight. The pension, unfunded pension liability was lowered due to better
Interest rates.
thank you, than we anticipated. So it lowered. I think it went from 14 to 10.5.
14 million to 10 million. That's correct.
Yeah. So we're very happy about that. So we have 10 million in unfunded, and we are going to put out pension obligation bonds to pay that. In doing so, we'll save an additional $2 million over the cost of the pensions. So, you know, that was actually great news. So it was 14 million. Now it's 10.5. We'll save 2 million by doing the pension bonds. So, you know, I feel good about that. I think their pension, unfunded pension, wasn't in the shape that RVSD was, but now I think we've got both organizations under control. I want to talk briefly about the tertiary water. The plan is to have 2 truck filling stations in the back of CMSA. They take longer to fill, and maybe 4 in the parking area prior to the second security gate, and that would be for people to come. It is expensive water. We have to actually build a desal plant, a mini desal plant, because our recycled water at CMSA, it has salt water in it. We have saltwater intrusion from the bay. And so we have to have a reverse osmosis membrane and a reverse osmosis procedure to get the salt out. And this equipment would not be the same in use for the direct portable reuse, pardon me. We're having a meeting, next month's meeting, we'll talk about that. It would cost us $10,000 per acre foot to create that. $10,000 per acre foot. And Las Colinas is selling an acre foot to MMWD at $1,000. So it's an expensive procedure, and I'm concerned, of course, that the direct portable reuse will be pretty expensive as well. We could generate between 4 and 6 million gallons per day of direct potable reuse if we went in that direction. So we have to be very careful about the numbers. I really would suggest all the board members review that item, which was number 5 on the CMSA board, and maybe even consider attending the next meeting, because it's really, are we going to do this recycling? I'm all for it, but it's expensive.
And remember, Doug, that $1,000 per acre foot is what they're selling it. to MMWD for it.
Is that what I said?
Yes, you did. It's not what it costs.
Oh, okay, good point.
The cost was significantly higher. I believe it was like it's, not as high as ours would be, but it was like $5,000 per acre foot. But they've got it. They're selling it to MMWD.
Okay, thank you for that. That's it's important to note that. Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
is ours higher?
We want to change, we want to check those numbers. That sounds high to me, Michael. 5,000. Go ahead, Tom.
But they don't, the reason is, Tom, they don't have saltwater intrusion as much.
And we do, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those costs are pretty high, folks, just so you know. They
Right.
really, water agencies aren't going to really invest in things more than 3,000 an acre foot. The current estimate on DPR at CMSA based on the Marin Municipal Water District report of 2017 is $2,400 an acre foot for a direct
Okay.
flow. So 10,000 is astronomical.
Okay.
And really, then you do need to look at and see if that's the best, highest use of public dollars to achieve that type.
I agree with you, Steve. And I really think it's important for you to have input into this. I appreciate that. We made no decisions. We just listened to it. I was surprised at the numbers. And I'm afraid that the direct potable reuse is going to be, 10 times that.
Right. It should be 4 times less.
It should be what?
It should be 4 times less.
Oh, okay. Well, I look forward to hearing. I don't know the answer. It's the next meeting.
The reason why it might be is because of the amount, the volume that you're generating.
The volume.
Okay.
That's a civil engineering thing, right, Tom?
Okay.
So your cost goes way up if you're only producing a certain smaller volume. And that's the case with tertiary uses in Central Marin. There is not a huge volume of demand for those uses. Whereas drinking water, there's demand for the full amount that could be generated. And so the volume that would be used would be the full volume.
Okay. And
That will be coming up
Yeah.
on future presentations because that's also in the works.
Yeah, next month.
Oh,
Next month.
I thought the DPR was a few months out.
No, I don't think so. Next month. Tom?
I had another question on that. You mentioned the pension went down. And the reason CMSA's pension went down is because the state had great earnings this year.
Exactly.
So they, one, paid off some of the unfunded liabilities of various agencies, and 2, reduced the discount rate to 6.8%. So did we see a reduction? We didn't, at least. We didn't see.
Ross Valley?
Ross Valley, yeah, we didn't see or not a reduction in our pension because the CalPERS earnings were something like 15%. I'm surprised we didn't. If CMSA got it, I would think we did it too.
Do you have an opinion about that, Felicia?
Yeah, I would like to suggest that you might see those returns in our presentation to the board at the April meeting.
Oh, okay.
We'll have
Okay.
updated investment dollars for you guys to review at that point.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much. Pam, would you do North Bay Watershed, please?
Yeah, hold on a minute, I gotta find it. I gotta
Okay.
find you. Okay. So we had an interesting presentation on March 4th. It was a guest. Her name is Sasha Harris Lovett. She's a PhD from Berkeley Water Center, UC Berkeley. So she did a whole presentation on COVID and monitoring it, and how are they monitoring it in wastewater in the Bay Area. It was kind of a technical long report, but she also presented ideas about how other places within the Bay Area is collaborating to check wastewater and why. The one thing that I did remember is the virus is activated in the intestinal tract, not in wastewater. So I found that to be rather interesting and profound. She described ways in which wastewater can be a valuable resource for public data and discussed the current state and future of the program. I'm not clear who funds it. I'm assuming the state mostly, maybe the feds too. And let's see what else. A couple more things. She also talked about that this has been going on for a while, the monitoring, and I guess they just don't bring it to the public that much. And epidemiology is done all at Cal. And the locations that they draw the samples from can be prisons, residence for the elderly, universities, especially student housing, neighborhoods, and wastewater treatment facilities influence. And she said to date they have collected 5,000 samples. The other new thing is that the wastewater provided early warnings of Omicron in Marin. There were a lot of questions and a lot of went on for a long time. Next, Andy Rogers usually gives his kind of like a manager's update. The main thing is the conference on April 8th from 9 to 3 p.m. It is free. And I'm thinking they will get the Zoom info out to you because I believe, yes, it is a Zoom. So the 4 sessions from the conference will be One Water, One Bay. The second will be Watershed Smart. The third will be Sea Level Rise and Freshwater Drop. And the 4th session will be Resiliency Workforce Development. There's a small committee that's working on it from the North Bay Watershed. And then in some of our, we exchange information from all over the Bay Area, well, with the counties that are involved. And Jack Gibson brought up some issues around flood control for the North Bay Watershed. I'm sorry, the MMWD. They're still trying to figure out how are they going to get more water. That's still some debate going on with Sonoma County. Elizabeth Patterson, I don't know if you know her, but she brought up a whole discussion about zebra mussels in Lake Berryessa. They're still bad. They were bad when I was a kid fishing with my father there. Michael brought up issues about the digester covers. I think that's it's over, I hope. And then last I brought up our awards, and you know, we've got to feel really good about all our awards. So that's my report.
Thank you. The digester cover has been finished and resolved. There's some outstanding financial issues because they sent us the wrong cover twice, and we're trying to figure that out. But I would say that the second cover needs to be replaced in the next 2 years, so we're probably going to expedite the replacement of the second cover. We don't want it to blow up. We'd rather have it be planned. Tom, yeah.
Isn't the Central Marin Sanitation Agency treatment plant also one of the treatment plants selected for the COVID samples?
Yes.
Yes, and we were one of the only ones of our size, meaning smaller sizes, and we were one of the first, and we were awarded some award for that because they were in early, and it was very helpful. And they took samples from manhole areas from different parts of the community. So, for example, they were very concerned about the minority community in the canal. So they had some independent information on that that was very helpful to the state. And
CMSA paid for it, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, it wasn't funded by the state or the feds. It was CMSA. Yeah.
Nope.
I might just make one other quick comment that was glossed over very quickly by the doctor who gave the presentation. They are collecting from different residential sites on campus, and particularly fraternity and sorority row up there on the top of campus. And by accident, one of the other things that they find out as a byproduct of doing the COVID testing is what kind of illicit drugs are being ingested And a friend of mine who works for Berkeley PD said, well, there's a question about search and seizure of evidence. If evidence comes in and they're not looking at it, can they do, it's not like it's a big surprise that those things are happening, but that's a question that comes up if you're testing wastewater. It's evidence that's coming in, and what can you do with other than maybe look at it and say, wow, that's interesting. Anyway, that was glossed over very quickly.
Steve, do you have a general manager report?
Yes, President Kelly, I've got 3 things to report on. I was kind of looking for, I have a link to the COVID study that Berkeley Water Center is conducting, and Ross Valley has been part of that all the way as well. We've had our influent to the CMSA plant recorded on COVID levels for over a year now. So and same with San Rafael. So yeah, we've been part of that, but just, CMSA manages it. Okay, the 3 things. First, PG&E has approached us about replacing a tall metal tower for their transmission lines. It's located on the hillside above the Larkspur Landing property, and they requested use of the property temporarily for about 2.5 months this spring and summer to have a staging area and a place where they can construct a crane. So they're drafting a lease document for our review. We're going to be looking at that in the next week.
What's the word I was looking for?
And we're at staff, we're happy to assist them in the infrastructure project.
They'd be paying some sort of money to the agency.
Yeah, they have a standard approach dealing with landowners for temporary use. So we'll see what that is. I don't think it's going to be a whole lot, but it's nominal.
No, I think it's, first off, I'm happy to work with PG&E. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I'm happy to work with them. But I'm also happy to take their money.
Yeah. So
Where exactly is it going to be put?
Yeah, so there's existing towers and they're corroding, through just the environmental exposure. So they've identified a tower near our property, and so we're an ideal laydown area because we're nice and flat and clear, and they can construct a crane and construct the tower actually on our property, and then crane it up into place in the hillside above our property.
Oh, above our property. Okay.
Yeah, the tower's not on our property, but it's nearby.
Okay. Just thinking about if we sold the property and some of those wealthy folks would want to not look at a tower, but I'm just fantasizing, so never mind.
That's right. It would be different if it was a permanent easement. This is only a 2.5 month encumbrance that they're requesting. So yeah, so that, I'll keep you updated on how that's going, and if there's an opportunity for you to come by and see the operation. Second item, the State Water Board draft order updating the 2006 sanitary sewer system waste discharge requirements, which regulates 1,100 collection systems throughout the state. That draft order has been on the street and comments are due April 8th. I've reviewed it as part of the collection system committee for BACWA, or Bay Area Clean Water Agencies. So in our regular meetings, we've been discussing issues with that proposed changes to the order. And there was a hearing yesterday, and I provided 3 minutes of comments on really my message to the State Water Board and the staff were how responsive they were to comments we had provided earlier, so that they were listened to. We were listened to, and that the need from the perspective of the smaller systems, because I mentioned 1,100 different governmental agencies, right? That's a lot. And over 3/4 of them are quite small, less than 50 miles of sewer. We're a 200-mile sewer, so it makes us medium sized. So I was just providing, the message that the existing order works well and any changes should be easy to follow because the majority of the enrollees are a lot smaller than we are. So I think the comments were well received. And the State Water Board members directed staff to continue working with the collection systems to refine, remaining issues. And so it was a good experience. Speaking of regulatory agencies, my third third update is on the cease and desist order. I received correspondence from the Regional Water Board on Friday, March 11th, acknowledging completion of the pipe defect corrections in the cease and desist order, and that it, quote, might be close to rescinding the cease and desist order. They reviewed the 2021 IAMP, or Infrastructure Asset Management Plan update that you helped, that you approved for updating, and we completed that in September. And they told us, quote, the revised IAMP is comprehensive and lays out the district's strategy to fix its collection system moving forward, unquote. So that's the feedback we've received on those efforts. And that's where we stand today.
Good. That's a great job. Thank you very much. Nothing else, Steve?
Nothing else. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next item is the consent calendar. Matters listed on this item are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. The consent calendar may include resolutions. Therefore, the motion second and vote will also be applicable to the resolutions and recorded accordingly. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless by a member of the board or the public prior to the time the board votes on the motion to adopt. Would anybody like to pull anything from the consent calendar?
You missed item 6.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I checked it off too when he stopped because I checked it off when he started. Are there any verbal reports by board members or requests for future items on the agenda? And Tom does. There you go.
I was driving near where I live and I spotted Lost Age engineers working on a project, Skyland Way. And then I saw Phil, our engineer, inspecting there. And so I stopped. And what they did was we planned the work on Skyland Way. And when they were doing the project, they found out that the connections from Skyland Way to Laurel Grove were faulty. And so they ended up putting in, I think, 2 more manholes and fix what's called the T connection, which shouldn't be there, instead of having a manhole where a pipe comes in at a 45-degree angle. And anyway, they found that the pipe was really in shabby condition. And so it was really pretty cool. Everything was set to go. They spotted a problem. They, our district allowed them, instructed them, you've got to fix these other things. And they did. And it's very cost effective and fixed a problem as they saw it. I was really quite impressed, and they jumped right on it. It's all done. It didn't take very long at all. But, fixed a potential problem in a very efficient and economical way. So I'd like to commend the project.
Good. Well, thank you. Does anybody else have any report out or requests? I'm seeing none. I'm going to go back to the consent calendar. I'm not going to read that again. Would anybody like to pull anything from the consent calendar?
I think we should pull 70 and just mention that the Human Resources Committee looked at it. And so we'll pull it, say that, and then that's it for me.
Okay. Maybe we could put that on the next consent calendar, the next agenda to review the human resources from this month. Yes, Tom.
My comment was, do we disqualify the unvaccinated? I mean, do they get the same benefits as vaccinated people?
They do, yes.
It's too bad. Okay.
Do you have a feeling about that, Tom?
Pardon me?
Do you have
I wish, They don't, if you're not vaccinated, that you don't get the full benefit of this leave policy. But I guess it's a state mandate, so what can we
That's
do?
Well,
right. Yeah, we wouldn't as an employer be able to do that. As an employer, I think what you could do if the board wanted to go this direction would be to require its employees be vaccinated. But that's a bigger discussion and policy direction than what's before you this evening.
do you know, do we have a voluntary report there from staff? Felicia, do you know how many people are vaccinated, or we do know? What's the answer to that?
Of our currently, I think 29 full-time staff and 2 agency temporary staff, we have 5 unvaccinated employees.
Okay. Okay, with that, do I have a motion for the consent?
I move the consent calendar.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Beat you to it, Mary. Thank you very much. Can we have a roll call on the approval of consent calendar, please?
Yes, thank you. Borstein,
Yes.
Daphne,
Yes,
Meggs,
Yes.
Philip,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
unanimous, thank you.
Thank you. And without skipping anything else, let's go to number 8. Consideration of approving amendment number 1 to task order number 5 of consulting services master services agreement with Newt Engineering for engineering services for design and during construction for the pump station 14, 24, and 25 Larkspur Pump Station Improvement Project, which was project number 906, in an amount not to exceed $84,765. Steve.
Yes, thank you, President Kelly. This item we have before the board because it does exceed staff's approval authority of $35,000 for changes to contracts that are already budgeted for professional services. So since it exceeds $35,000, it requires board approval. In this instance, as the staff report describes and as is detailed in the proposal that's attached to the proposed task order, there are additional tasks for this completion of this project. Now that it is in construction, we have signed the notice to proceed. There was delays because of supply chain issues. Generators are on back order throughout the state because driven by not only the COVID related supply chain issues, but also great demand for from public agencies for public supply power shutoffs, the PSPS. So those things have made us delay issuing notice to proceed. We did issue notice to proceed this week and are beginning mobilization at the pump stations. This is the last project in the capital project list that we've committed to for implementing the cease and desist order with the regional board. So we're glad to be getting underway. We're also cleaning up the professional services budgets, and Newt and Todd Beecher, who works as a subcontractor for Newt, is electrical engineer, identified budget shortfalls that we want to take care of now. It doesn't mean we're going to spend the full $84,000, but it just provides authorization in case it's needed. There's a little more expense that we're recommending we incur because some of this work actually, sometimes the contractor does this logic programming work in these, when we put in the new VFD, variable frequency drives that controls the pump motors based on inflow for more efficiency. The logic programming can be done by the contractor, but we also, in this instance, see the value of paying a design engineer to do it because this design engineer is familiar with other logic programming at our different pump stations. And so what will result is a system that looks the same here at pump station 14 as it does at our other major pump stations so that staff don't have to have a different approach. So there are efficiencies, even though there's extra cost here on this end. There's less cost on the contractor end and more efficiency for staff in the long run. That's one example. And there's other work that goes with this. We discovered a faulty automatic transfer switch at pump station 14 in the last couple of months. So we're taking advantage of this contract and adding additional work to bring that in. An automatic transfer switch is the part of the the motor control center that when there's a power outage, it knows to switch automatically to the generator power without a person having to be there physically. So it's like an ATS, automatic transfer switch, critical piece of infrastructure that we identified needed work as well. So we're going to add that work and have the design team make sure it gets specified appropriately. That's one other example of additional work. So with that, staff recommends that you approve this amendment to the existing task order for the design and engineering services during construction for pump station 14, 24, and 25.
Thank you very much. Questions from the board? Tom is shaking no. Mary? Mary is shaking no.
No, I
Michael,
just want to say that I think that's what didn't work at pump station 15 in 2005, which started the original flood of my house. So, because they said, oh, the backup generator didn't kick in. So we need that. And then also, if you look at this picture, I mean, honestly, this could be textbook of why it's important that, sewer infrastructure is stable and doesn't get to groundwater, because there's so much groundwater around here. So great.
and that's why we have to build a desal.
I know.
Yeah, thank you. Michael? Michael shaking his head. Pam?
I was at the finance committee. It looks good and ready to roll.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, we reviewed it at finance. It makes perfect sense. This is, first off, this project's a large project. It's got to happen. We want it done right. And I completely agree with the direction of the general manager that the pump stations should all be done the same. It would be crazy to have different approaches to save a dime. That's not saving money in the long run. So I definitely agree with your assessment and your direction, Steve. Thank you. With that, I'll bring it back for a motion.
I move that we authorize the general manager, upon review and approval of legal counsel, to approve amendment number 1 to task order number 5 with Nude Engineering in the amount of $84,765, not to exceed $320,125 for engineering services for the PS 142425 Larkspur Pump Station Improvements Project.
Mary, you want a second?
I was going to let you do it, Tom. Second.
Yeah. Thank you, Mary. Can we have a roll call, please, Julia?
Yes, thank you. Borstein,
Yes.
Gaffney,
Yes.
Biggs,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
unanimous, thank you.
Okay. Number 9, consideration of approving amendment number 1 to task order number 6 of consultant services master services agreement with Somas Inc. for construction management and inspection services for the Butterfield Arroyo Kendrick Gravity Sewer Improvements Project, which was project number 947, in an amount not to exceed $76,324.88. Steve.
Thank you, President Kelly. And along this same theme, we have extra professional services costs that exceed the $35,000 limit for budgeted items that the staff can approve. So we're bringing this item before the board for your approval at the $76,000 level. In this instance, instead of design and engineering support, we're talking about the construction management support. And instead of a pump station project, we're talking about a gravity sewer project. And in this case, we saw some changes, and we're getting close, as we discussed in Finance Committee. This project is really completed with very little punch list type cleanup items remaining. And so we're on the verge of recommending a notice of completion for this project in the next month or two. And when we do the notice of completion, we do a final balancing change order where we rectify actual project quantities compared to what the bid quantities were estimated at. And a classic example is the tons of asphalt, right? It's pretty much impossible to predict the exact tonnage of asphalt in a project. So we're always doing a correction at the end. And then length of pipe sometimes is different than what we plan. So that's coming, right? And so to have adequate support to make all of that process run smoothly, you know, we do rely on, in this case, SOMAS, and you know Justin Sufert, he's the project manager for them on our projects that they work for us on. He provides a really great service on detailed notices of completion packages that we have adopted over the years. So we do need to pay him to help us close out the project. The reason why we've run over is discussed in the staff report. It has to do, you know, we're about 4 months longer than we had planned. And a lot of that has to do with, you know, what we discover in the underground as we're building things. You know, we do our best to mark utilities and find out on the plans, but we don't get everything. And sometimes storm drains are challenging because they're not well mapped, especially in the county jurisdictions. So in the Fawn Drive portion of this project, the storm drain was on top of the sewer. You know, our sewer was laid in the 40s, I guess, you know, so in the interim decades, the county at some point put their storm drain in and didn't check that they were exactly on top of our sewer. They actually caused a sag in our sewer because of a heavy component of their infrastructure that they placed on top. So we had to do, we didn't get real clear direction from the county on what they expected. And so there was some back and forth, and there were inefficiencies and delays and a lot of work that wasn't planned that the construction managers helped us with. So it's all working itself out, but it doesn't come without cost. So we had Justin go back and estimate the remaining proposed budget to close out the project, get us record drawings, you know, do everything we need to do to issue the notice of completion and get our sewer maps updated, get our lateral cards updated because we replace all those laterals in these gravity projects. So this is real important work. We want to make sure that SOMAS has budget to complete, and that's the purpose of this amendment. So with that, staff does recommend that the board approve the additional amount on this contract budget, and look forward to closing this one out and being done with the Butterfield saga of 4 years.
I'm sure the residents will appreciate that too. You know, Steve, I asked you about the paving, and I looked at the paving plan at the San Anselmo website, and aside from a short area of slurry seal, I didn't see anything on that, which is kind of a little disappointing. I think the town's a little remiss in that. You don't have any additional information on that, do you?
I do not know. We really, you know, while we cared very much about the finished product on these jobs, we think in our plans, we do our part. You know, we really stabilize the trenches that we build. We take a lot of pride in that. So the way we leave it, if it looks a little patchworky, it's still smooth, you know, It's still functions really well, and it's stable. You know, we leave it in better shape than we found it, that sort of thing.
There's no question about that. I think they should have slurry sealed the whole road, or at least, you know, a majority of it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and that's where you know, we have that often the discussion about how far should the utility go to repave the road. You know, do you think the sewer ratepayers should, you know, where does that obligation end, and where does the, you know, the town obligation begin, or the county?
No, agreed. And I can tell you that San Anselmo had a specific streets paving tax to do that. So no, it's up to them. I think we pull things up, we put it back, and that's our obligation. So let me bring this to the board for questions. Tom?
Yeah, I was looking at the agreement, number one, to task order. And in time of performance, it says to complete it not later than December 31st, 2024. Is that correct?
Yeah. I think we just leave it open-ended. I think in our professional services, we've had enough experience where, we like to have flexibility on the back end, and there's not, in case we need to get record information, they're still on the hook for lateral card information, on into the future.
I hope it's done before that.
Yeah, I mean, the substance of it will be, and our contractors understand we have a 6-month goal, to, after we issue notice of completion, we really want to get the improvements permanently added to our sewer map, and the record drawings attached to that, so that our staff is able to, have a sewer map that represents what's really in the ground, and not have, the old system in it. So we have processes in place to make sure it is timely. That just gives us flexibility to work with the contractor into the future as needed. We don't always do it that way, but on this example we did. I would point out that I think there's a typographic error at the bottom of board packet page 44. So if you do choose to recommend or make a motion, or we didn't catch that we left the Laurel Grove project in there. It should say the Butterfield Arroyo Kenrick project.
Oh,
A little typo there.
okay,
So,
thank you.
So if you're using that as your script for making a motion, be advised. And we'll fix that in the board packet.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anything else, Tom? No, okay. Mary? Okay, nothing. Michael, nothing. Pam? Okay, Pam also joined, although did not participate in the finance meeting where we reviewed this. Similar to the item number 8, this makes complete sense. We want to get this done. This was a huge project. So I would bring it back to the board for a possible motion. I'm sorry, I see Dave Egan. I don't know if you're a member of the public. Yes, Pam.
Just quick, that I needed to clarify for myself if there's questions, but probably not. In this this one and the one before, we didn't say change order. Just so y'all, we did an amendment to the initial contract. So that's it.
Okay.
David Egan is a member of the public. He happens to be my stepfather, so I guess he's just checking to make sure I wasn't lying to him when I told him I was on an RVSD call.
Well, with that, I'd like to ask Mr. Egan if he has any public comment on anything. Doesn't have to be related to our board policies or anything on the agenda. Mr. Egan, the floor is yours.
Just for the interest to see what's going on. Happy to see you all.
Thank you very much. It's nice to meet you. That was not as exciting as I thought it could have been. All right, bringing it back for
With
possible
that,
motion.
I'd like to make a motion. Authorize the general manager upon review and approval of legal counsel to approve amendment number 1 to task order number 6 with Somas Inc. in the amount of $76,324.88, not to exceed $341,934.88 for construction management of the Butterfield Arroyo Kenrick Sewer Rehabilitation Project. Now I'll say that 6 times.
Said it right. Do we have a second? Thank you, Mary. And please may I have a roll call, Julia?
Yes, thank you. Borstein,
Yes.
Gaffney,
Yes.
Beggs,
Yes.
Villa,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item number 10 are informational items. Number A is the monthly operations and maintenance metrics report. We have a SDLF District Transparency Certificate of Excellence and a leadership initiative, which we briefly discussed before. And does anybody have any comments, questions about any of that? I see none. Mary's looking.
Did we want to
Michael?
talk about the HR committee meeting now? We can convey to you.
Or
No?
before, could we just have a couple quick comments on item 10A?
Okay, thank you.
I just want to note that we had no SSOs in February. And I look back at the CWEX database, and this is the first February in the history of this agency to have a no spill month. So congratulations.
That's great news, Steve. Thank you very, very much. And I hope
February, no spill February. So
it's been a bit of a dry February, but just the same, it's good to know.
There was that. And, I think this is a picture of, how when we quit doing 100% recycling, on page 55 of the board packet, you do see more potable use in January, February, because we've gone back to a practice of just filling up at the end of the day and using potable water during the day, which we think is the best fit for our agency. We also learned something this month, actually. We brought the Harbin, one of the Harbins, which is a high pressure, low volume jetter, a little more finicky, a little more sensitive of a system. And we learned something, the pump went out on that. We had to replace the pump. Well, before we looked at our records, and we bought the truck new in about 2015. So it took about 4.5 years the first time to replace the pump. We replaced it by about October of 2020, right when we started using only recycled water. And we had to replace the pump again in 1.5 years. So instead of 4.5 years of life, and then going back to factory level, we only got 1.5 years of life using recycled water from CMSA. So that's enough of a signal where we're actually recommending we do not use recycled water in the Harbin vehicles. We gave it a try, but we think that's actually crossing a line of causing too much maintenance, too much wear and tear. But there are other vehicles we can tolerate some, right? But on these sensitive ones that we tried out on, I think we have proof that it's too much. There's solids, there's debris that gets involved into the pump gear, into the pump motor, makes it go asymmetrical and work harder, and there's wear and tear. And so that's an interesting thing we learned. It's not a huge financial impact, but I think that's a good lesson learned, and that you're using the right water for the right use, right? So we're going to back off on that. And Harbins don't use nearly as much water as the others, because like I said, it's low volume, high pressure. So it's not a huge impact on our overall recycled water use. Just want to make one of those things.
Did you want to talk about?
Right. So rather than have another agenda item reporting what the Human Resources Committee did at the next, can we just say that in addition to another agenda item, we looked at this leadership initiative to encourage high performing culture. And it's just a really wonderful morale builder and a way of taking something that Steve and Felicia found in the private sector and actually adapting it for our staff at RVSD and the public utility sector. And that it's become fun and clever. And as somebody who worries about culture at the nonprofit that I work at, I think, wow, how wonderful that you have actually done something to improve morale and the culture, particularly a place where that, some years ago, some of us can remember that there was not high morale and retention, employee retention, and all the other benefits that come from making people feel good about coming to work where they work. Michael, did you want to say anything about that?
No, it just, again, very, very impressed by what Steve and Felicia have done with this program and really trying to turn around the culture. I was actually discussing with Jason today how much the culture over here has really changed even since I've been on the board, where before that they had anyway, it's changed a lot. So that's really terrific.
Were you also saying that we stole an employee from them?
No. I'm saying
no.
that
Okay.
apparently our guys in the field used to have a nickname for general manager from a few times ago, which got out there.
That's all you can
No,
say.
we don't have a nickname that I'm aware of for you, Steve.
Yeah, it's okay. It comes with the territory. I knew the job was dangerous when I took it.
I'd like to agree with what Marion and Michael mentioned. In fact, I love this booklet. Michael and Felicia had this done in a booklet form. So it comes out like that, and it's 2 sides. And I have a copy in my desk. And I have a copy in my desk here at work. Felicia has a copy. Steve has a copy. I've given a few out to.
Where did you get those?
Yeah.
Oh, they're for sale. No, you can get them from Steve or Felicia, or Julia can arrange it, I'm sure. There's quite a few in the office.
All grandchildren.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can teach
And
your
the final
granddaughter
one,
to be accountable, and et cetera.
be accountable, get the facts, follow procedures, never stop learning, speak straight, listen generously. There's 25 of them, and the last one is keep things fun, and that's an important part of life too. So this is a great job. Thank you very much on that. Anything? Go ahead, Pam.
I think I have 2 favorites. And by the way, I talked to Steve at length on how this is incorporated and how they process this. And the staff meets and they pick one and they talk about it. So it's an interactive. It's just not this in sitting somewhere. It's really in action. So I'm just amazed. I love it. My 2 favorites are number 3, find the solution, not the blame. And number 9, choose positivity over negativity. So maybe we could get a board version, Felicia.
We should just adopt this.
I will help you, and I promise not to be negative.
Hey, yeah, those are 2 of my favorites, Director Meigs.
Yeah, they help the most.
Yeah, there's this app that everybody has, and you can look at videos on the thing, the behavior of the week, but also there are these kudos. Oh, look, there's one on there. It's like there's a little red thing there. Sorry, that tells me there's a new kudos, and I can read it to you. Oh, Philip Mark Antonio said a few minutes ago, job well done, Francisco Garcia, ingesting coffee for the hard work at Pump Station 24. This was not a simple task, but we got it done. Thank you too for your great attitudes and hard work. So that just came in a couple minutes ago. So that's the kind of positive stuff that keeps flowing with this initiative.
We did on the Sierra Club Executive Committee. We started our meeting. Well, what are our wins? Do we have a win? We don't always have a win, but it's still, again, this positive frameworker. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else on informational items from any of the board members? I see a shaking head, Michael.
Yeah, I just want to give Julia some credit for her work on item 10B. She identified this opportunity for a transparency certificate through the CSDA, Special District Leadership Foundation, and pulled together the application and achieved this milestone for the district on transparency. And I really want to thank Julia for showing the initiative to do that.
Thanks, Jim Moore.
Did it require changes? Were there things we needed to modify to get the certificate?
There were just a couple of things. For example, we needed to update all of the board ethics certificates, which were due by the end of 2022. So that was perfect timing. And there was one item about listing all the enterprise systems that the district uses and having it available on the website. And we had added a few items such as Laserfish, which we used for records repository, and it had the old name for Info Asset. It was InfoNet. So just small changes. There are about 35 things that my colleague Courtney Buell and I worked together to complete. And I'm very proud of the certificate, and it lasts for 3 years.
Great.
Excellent.
Good.
Good work, Julia. Thank you. Anything else from the board? Seeing none, I'm going to adjourn the meeting, but before I do that, I wanted to point out that our next special meeting is on March 30th, 2022 at 4 p.m. via GoToMeeting. Steve, when will that agenda packet, will that be a 24-hour or a 72-hour notice of that agenda to the public?
Yeah, well, we haven't established that, but we certainly can do a longer, we can shoot for the 72-hour. We were able to do that for the March 2nd meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can have a target for that.
Thank you very much. Great. Okay, so the next meeting is March 30th, 2022 at 4 p.m. via GoToMeeting. And with that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Have a good
Thanks,
night.
board member. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.